Welcome to Bitcoin Aggregated. This is attempt 2 at recording. We just had a bit of a mishap with the first one, but yeah, got a fair bit in the news today to share. Let me just share my screen. I actually want to share audio as well. Is that coming up okay?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, so take two. One of the things I wanted to chat about, I was hoping you'd kind of know more about it actually, Chris, but the Google's partnership with Coinbase and the ability to look up transactions natively on Google. I'm of two minds about it. Like, yeah, it's cool that it's like, going in the right direction of Google kind of coming on board with the BTC blockchain and making it easier for people to sort of interact with it. But at the same time, I don't know, is it kind of creepy that Google's getting involved, particularly with transactions and like making that easier and easier for people to sort of spy on other people's transactions, like without necessarily using like a block explorer or something. I don't know. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I don't know much about it, but I did a quick Google just now, and the official press release from Coinbase announcing the partnership with Google Cloud isn't very long on their website, but I just skimmed it and I don't see the word Bitcoin mentioned once.
Right.
There's plenty of discussion about Web3, cryptocurrency payments, stuff like that. Lots of Web3 based commentary, but no Bitcoin. Not a single mention of the word Bitcoin in the
Interesting.
PR. So
I think it was this thread I was going through, the Bitcoin Magazine one, and it was people talking about that. And there was like a discussion about the search specifically integrating into Google. So unless there's like two Google things happening at once, could be.
maybe this isn't the same thing, but there's apparently 4 parts to this partnership.
Oh,
I don't really know. Doesn't sound that interesting, to be honest.
Well, let's skip that then. All right.
I think the 4th part looks to be some sort of advanced data services.
Maybe that's it. Maybe that's it.
So that could be the stuff that
could be people jumping to conclusions as well, I suppose.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, it's Coinbase, right? So like they're going to go down the licensed path and the doing everything kind of by the books and alongside the whatever the government wants to happen. So if that means more KYC and more data analytics and stuff like that, then Coinbase will probably do that, right?
Yeah, 100%. And
it's probably a pretty good segue into one of the things that I was mucking around with briefly between our last discussion last week. Service or an app called Jam.
It's the Jam, yeah.
Yeah. Annoyingly, I can't get into my Jam app on my Bitcoin node to pull it up, but I mean, there's the screenshot of the kind of UI. I found it to be pretty cool. So if I'm understanding the concept correctly, Jam is basically just this interface, which kind of acts like a wallet, I guess, and it connects with some other software called Join Market. And Join Market is kind of like, I guess, a coin joiner for the Bitcoin protocol. So a way for you to obfuscate and improve your privacy on the Bitcoin protocol. And so Jam is just an interface that allows you to do that. And it's pretty cool. So I loaded it up on my Bitcoin node and had a bit of a play around with it. And the UI was pretty sweet. It was all fairly self-explanatory. I put a little bit of Bitcoin in, which may have been donated now because I can't get into it. Hopefully I can figure that out, but it wasn't much. It was like 50, I don't know, 5,000 Satoshis or something. It was just like a nominal amount. But basically, if I understand it correctly, the whole idea of it is you've got these sort of different wallets. So A, B, C, D, E, or they call it apricot, blueberry, cherry, date, and elderberry. And you can kind of send some Bitcoin to any one of these wallets, and then you can use this join market protocol to essentially create a transaction alongside other people who are using the jam or the join market protocol as well, and kind of hide your Bitcoin in the crowd in amongst everyone else, which I thought was pretty cool, which is, I guess, probably fairly typical of a coin join type software. But there was this other thing that also caught my eye. Like that alone, I thought was awesome.
Yeah.
And like from what I could tell, a fairly newbie friendly way to get some privacy on Bitcoin, which is one of the
Easy
things
interface.
that's
Yeah.
yeah, an easy interface. It's like often kind of one of the criticisms of Bitcoin is that it's not private, or if it is, you've got to jump through all these hurdles and use all these different.
Like one of my favorites is Samurai Wallet, but that's notoriously like hard to use unless you really know what you're doing. Like the interface doesn't lend itself to, grandma logging into her email. It doesn't look like that. But yeah, you're right.
And there's probably still a long way to go with a lot of things like this, including probably Jam too. But I thought it was pretty cool. But yeah, the other thing that caught my eye was this thing called Earn, and you can see it on the screenshot up there. And basically, I think if you scroll down a little bit, there's even an image of the Earn page. Yeah, so you can create these bonds, and basically they're kind of like smart contracts that you say to the Bitcoin network how much Bitcoin you want to lock up in this bond and for what time. And I don't really understand it. I might be butchering this, and if someone understands this better, like please let us know either in the comments or reach out to us on Twitter, because I'm keen to learn more. I guess I'm not popular enough for people to catch on to what Jam is, but I've been asking a few people and no one's really said anything. Maybe it's too new. But like from my understanding is you can earn sats by like providing, I don't know if this is the right term, but like liquidity for others to then obfuscate their Bitcoin into. And because you've made this bond, it gives some level of certainty that you're good for it, I guess, because you've locked it up in the contract. I don't know if this understanding is correct or not, but it seemed cool. And like you can earn some sats, you can set your sort of your fees, and you want to be competitive. So this is why it's really frustrating. I can't pull up my Jam app right now because I could be showing
what it is.
the listeners. And like you can see a little bit of this here, but basically like there's like it's a way to earn sats by locking up sats. Kind of, for a better lack of term, reminds me a little bit of proof of stake in the sense that you lock up something. But yeah, I don't know. I think the jury's still out on this, but it's something that popped up for me over the last week, and I thought, okay, cool. I'm into privacy, so that there's a tick there straight off the bat. Anything that makes things noob friendly, I'm also into, because I'm not the craziest super geek nerd. So if it's built into my Umbral box, then I can just quickly install it and get going, even though I've fucked up and somehow not remembered my credentials. So I guess it's not that noob friendly. Maybe I'm just an idiot. But yeah, really cool concept. I think we'll see more about this over the coming months.
Sorry, cutting you off. Are you rocking Bitwarden or something? Or a password?
Yeah, I'm using LastPass, I think it is. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Bitwarden you can actually install on your Umbral as well, so you can actually have the whole thing sitting there, like on your node, and then back it up like to another person's node as well. So we haven't done it, but I was playing around with the idea with Tigs.
I've heard good things about Bitwarden. I just haven't made the jump.
So, and it's all open as well. So yeah, I'm kind of between that and like 1Password at the moment. So I keep kind of going between the two. I think I need to spend a day and just move everything across. But the concept is like between like my Citadel node and your Umbral, we can back up each other's like passwords. I think like that's the crux of it. So it doesn't have to sit on like a server somewhere, obviously all encrypted. But it's like a backup that you can get your friends to do for you, sort of thing. Pretty cool. So
Yeah,
that
interesting.
might be a way to go at some stage when we have time to play with that. This reminds me, it was a project, actually speaking of TIGs again, like years ago, probably about 5 years ago, we got these, I think it was like dark BTC or something, but there was like nodes you buy for that specifically. I think they might still be running somewhere, maybe at my folks' place. But basically, it was like a NUC, and the NUC would run a node, and transactions would go through that, and you'd get paid in like another token. It was pretty cool. So it's very similar. So like the idea is like sort of trunking all the transactions together and then putting them through on chain on BTC, and then you get little rewards in this token that I've forgotten what it was, but yeah, not Sats. So it sounds like these guys have made a much cleaner way to doing that and getting Sats directly rather than trading some token on an exchange. But yeah,
Yeah,
very cool.
I think the Jam interface was like literally released not that long ago, like within the last couple of weeks, perhaps. But Join Markets perhaps been around a little longer. They just made this nice app, I guess, for people to interact with the Join Market
Yeah,
code. So I would like to find someone who can perhaps explain it better than I just did, or that has done the research, because I've only done like maybe literally an hour of research on this thing, and I was just kind of blowing my mind a little bit. But it would be good to see if we can maybe get someone that could help us understand this. I don't know who is creating this thing, if it's just some random dev.
let's reach out. I'll reach out to them and we'll see what we can get.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be cool, man. Very cool. All right, back to the news. This was really cool. I don't know if did I send this one to you? This Symphony of Blockchains. So it's basically
Nah.
there's so many of these like interfaces for viewing the blockchain, BTC blockchain in particular. Um, we won't kind of go through it all now, but it was a really like fun way to actually do like exploration through the BTC blockchain with a really nice interface. So basically, it takes you through like the Genesis block, like all the way through, and it has like a music and everything still going along with it. And then once this part stops, you can actually kind of move through space like with your mouse. Yeah, really cool. Like they've put a lot of effort into this thing. We won't do it all now, but like worth having a squiz when you get a chance. And yeah, shout out to these dudes because yeah, it's a
And this is what
super.
updated in real time?
Yeah. Um, there was a thing. Um, there was a thing a few years ago that launched Bitcoin VR. Did you ever see that? This is like a VR block explorer where you could actually walk around this space and pull transactions out of the air with your like Oculus or whatever it is and examine them. It was really cool for the kids at school because we could actually like literally pluck a big transaction out, look at it, and then they could read off like what size it was and like all the information about the actual block and like you know how much it was and all that sort of thing. But yeah, I thought, but it was only VR, right? So like you'd have to have a VR headset and have it up on the screen for the other kids to see what was going on. So it was kind of like a bit crazy. But this is like yeah, like even has like game controller interfaces and all sorts of stuff. But you can go along. I haven't really played too much with it, but yeah, pretty cool. It's worth
Go
having a
through
squeeze in
one
your
by
own time.
one all 700,000 blocks.
Um, alrighty. Yeah, so that was the one. This I wanted to talk about, and I thought this would have been good with Andy as well, actually. Um, but I really like this chart, and I know like Breedlove probably is the man at explaining this probably better than anyone or articulating it. But the just a chart of like BTC versus gold versus fiat and kind of what boxes it ticks. And there's one, I mean, I'm obviously preaching to the choir here that BTC sort of ticks them all. But there's one I always overlook, and that's like established history. And I think that's something key as well. Like, I mean, it has only been, just over 10 years. What are we on, 13 years now? Whereas gold has that history. And I think that's something that obviously people like Peter Schiff really value. Um, but yeah, it's a blind spot for me, and I never thought about it until I looked at this chart. Really, I was just always just like, yeah, blockchain or it doesn't matter.
What if
But
we're looking at the history the wrong way though? Like we're looking at it through
oh, your
time.
your your audio's gone real quiet. Hang on. Oh no, it's me. It's me. Oh good.
Okay. What if we're looking at it through the wrong lens of like how we usually perceive things, which is like, straight time. So gold's been around for thousands of years, Bitcoin's been around for 13 years. Pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah.
But what if we look at through like a different metric? So like using that thing that you just had on the screen a second ago, the symphony thing.
Yeah.
And like having like Bitcoin has proved itself over those 700,000 odd blocks, and every single block is verifiable. It's like stamped in the chain. Whereas like gold's been around for 3,000 years and you couldn't tell me what happened
Yes.
just
Yes.
like last month, like,
Yep.
let alone, BC or something, some crazy time when gold was around. So like, yes, it's been around for longer, but like we don't know anything about it, like in the sense of what happened over that course of the 3,000 years. Whereas everything that's happened on the historical record of Bitcoin is 100% verifiable and known. So, maybe there's an argument to make, okay, yes, it hasn't been around for not nearly as long, but the time that it has been around for, it's done a better job at preserving its history.
I like that. I really like that. Yeah.
That literally just came to me now, so I don't know if any of that made sense or not, but
It definitely did, and it was yeah, good sort of going from that other
because
clip.
like if fiat doesn't get the tick there, fiat's been around for quite
No,
some time as well, right?
yeah,
Like I guess it depends on which fiat you're talking about. Like just the general concept of fiat, I would probably give it a tick. It's been around for quite some time. If we're talking about like the US dollar, then okay, 80, 90 years or whatever it's been. Like I don't know, like these charts they're good, but they're also like sometimes don't tell the full picture.
well, and there's one metric missing on there as well: intrinsic value. That term gets banted around all the time.
Yeah, and I don't know where I sit on that argument, because like what is intrinsic value? Then you get into this long-winded discussion of defining intrinsic value. But I
Yeah.
think the ones that are there are important, and like they're just sound money principles essentially, right? Like
Yes.
scarcity, divisibility, portability, like durability, all of these things that we want in money and we desire in money. And this is a lot of people perhaps don't know that these are the characteristics that make good money. I certainly didn't know that before I started questioning money and understanding Bitcoin. So these charts are good in the sense of using a fair comparison in like, what makes good money. These are the things we know, and how do the options check out. And I didn't need to see this chart to know that Bitcoin dominated in pretty much all of these areas, but it is good to see that. And it's nice to see like a little bit of an explainer as well.
Verified established history. Yeah. That's what we have, and that's what gold doesn't have. I think that's a really good point. Really good point.
Yeah, I'm gonna start saying that a bit more because it just popped
Verified
into my mind.
established history. Yeah.
I want to hear if someone else has like if that checks out or not. Like, because I don't actually know. Like, I literally thought about it 2 minutes ago.
Well, it does. No, it definitely does. So, like, like you said, you can verify every block all the way back to the Genesis block, and you
Yeah.
can't. Yeah.
Well, I think you can also make the argument that it goes the other way too. And so, like, obviously, history, you think you go
Yeah.
back in time, something that's already happened. But
Yeah.
we know with pretty much full certainty what Bitcoin's going to do for the next 100 years as
Yes.
well. So, like,
Yeah.
it's history. Most people look at the price and they go, that's the measurement of success or failure. And we all know that I don't care about the price. And
No.
it's probably one of the least important aspects of all the things that you could be looking at when it comes to Bitcoin or money in general. But the consistency of block times, knowing exactly what the supply rate will be at any point in time, both in the past and in the future. These are all things gold and fiat cannot do. They cannot tell us how much gold. They don't even know how much gold got created last year. They kind of like guess a little bit, like they aim for sort of 1% to 2% inflation on gold, but there's no way to verify that. There's no way to actually know whether that's true. And we don't know what's going to happen next year. What if they just come across like a massive...
Well, I was about to say that. Does it deserve the tick for scarcity as well? Because it's not verified scarcity. We don't know.
Well, I think you'll find there'll be like a flippening in this kind of rhetoric and these sort of charts in the future where gold is just scarce because it's the scarcest thing we've known, but now it's being challenged by something else that has arguably better scarcity.
Yeah.
So I think, when maybe we'll see the scarcity tick disappear on gold when we see the established history tick appear on Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Maybe at that point, those two will actually change.
The flippening. I like that. I like that. Yeah, very cool. Oh, we went through Jam. This I thought was really, really interesting. And I think probably you more so than anyone, even though you're not mining, but you're an avid person for looking at mining. I think this is like fascinating, right? So BSV is a fork of Bcash, Bitcoin Cash. If you remember back to the fork wars and all these weirdos coming out of the woodwork with all different Bitcoin variants. The size of the BSV blockchain is just insane. So at this rate, at the end of the year, it'll be like 70 terabyte, which is nuts. So it means basically not many people can run a node. So you couldn't pick up a Raspberry Pi like us and spin it up. Like you have to basically, have a decent server to do that, and it's just going to get worse and worse. But what really got me thinking around this is like the hash rate for BTC. So the amount of energy that's being wasted on these blockchains. So we always talk about like the FUD around wasted energy for BTC and mining. Just kind of dawned on me today, and it's like the real waste of energy is these forks of BTC that are doing absolutely nothing, except trying to make it, a few people rich, few greedy people at the center of the projects rich, and literally wasting all that hash rate that could be used on the main chain to secure it and do it in a green way as well. So like maybe this should be a topic of discussion for Alpha podcasts when we spin that up again. But yeah, like, do you get what I'm saying? Like the all that FUD could be directed like at these. I won't even say altcoins, but like alt chains of BTC specifically. It's
To be
kind of
honest,
gross, right?
they're not important enough for people to even FUD. Like, who's really considering BSV
No,
like a
no,
serious competitor to anything, to literally anything? And I
yeah,
think this just proves the Bitcoiners right and vindicates them once again that big blocks were not the right solution when we were having the fork wars a few years ago. I mean, 4 GB blocks, 70 terabytes in a year. Like, this is exactly what everyone was saying was the reason
yeah.
you're not to do this. I don't know what is included in those 4 GB a block. Are people just like doing real nonsense, just spammy, bloating kind of transactions? Because I don't think there's genuine organic
Well,
blocks being filled on BSV with users like you and I.
yeah.
I
Well,
would doubt that.
there was a GIF that what's it, Roger Ver posted. I remember it was a while back, and he was like saying, "Look how much," like he was basically saying, "Look how much room there is to do transactions on Bcash with like transactions, it was like cars moving up, and then like a traffic jam for BTC. So
Mm,
basically nothing in those blocks, right? There's nothing there. It's just like
mm.
minimal stuff moving through. So it's like, but he thought that is like a good thing. Makes no sense to me. Um,
It's like building a road that no one drives on and be like, look, we got the best road, but
it's
literally
nice.
no one drives on it. It's like
Look how
I
good it is. Yeah,
I
yeah,
think, I mean, Ethereum was like probably the biggest proof of work competitor to Bitcoin, and they've decided to go in a different direction.
yeah,
So, and you know, as dumb as proof of stake is, in my opinion, um, that's probably going to continue the Ethereum journey for a little longer because they now don't have to compete against Bitcoin for the dominant proof of work chain. And the rest of these will all follow. They will just follow. They won't probably proactively eliminate themselves from the race like ETH did by changing consensus mechanisms. They'll just
yeah,
die. They'll
yeah.
simply just, there'll be no one there mining these things anymore. But yeah, like you said, there are a few people with their home rigs that feel like they can make a few extra bucks in fiat by mining some of these useless chains. Eventually that will run out, and the strongest chain, like all of life with natural selection, I believe the same thing will occur with proof of work, and Bitcoin will take all the hash rate.
It will. It will. I still think we should aim all the FUD at them rather than the main chain. These guys are actually wasting it, not anyone else. Anyway,
Yeah, but again, like, are they a threat? Like,
no, no, absolutely.
the FUD comes because people are threatened, right?
Yeah,
Whether
yeah.
that's governments, state actors, banks, you know,
No, and sorry, I shouldn't even say FUD. Like it is an actual problem, right? Like they're wasting hash rate that should be used to secure the main chain, and they're not doing that because it's
yeah.
so. Yeah, I
Well,
wouldn't.
I've always held the opinion that people should and can use energy for whatever the hell they want. So if someone
Yeah,
wants to mine 4 GB blocks on BSV, then heck, they should be allowed to. It's not my position to say you can't do that. What I can say though is you're an idiot for doing that,
yes.
and that's a different thing than
Yeah,
saying you cannot do it.
yeah.
So whilst I agree we shouldn't be wasting energy on mining pointless chains, people are free to do it if they
Have it.
want. Like,
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. I'll
like
take.
we will continue to advocate for it being a terrible idea, of course.
Yeah,
But at no, I'm not in any position to say you cannot do that,
yeah.
and nor should any government or
No,
any energy retailer or whoever. Like, we should just be able to use energy on whatever the heck we want, but then we should try to use the energy on things that are useful. And so
yeah.
in this case, I don't believe mining 4 GB blocks is useful. So I'm an advocate for not doing that.
It's madness, really. But anyway,
But it'll die on its own accord.
it'll die.
That's
It
the
will.
point I'm making.
It will. And lastly, I think you kind of brought this up last week, but um, yeah, like I love this tweet for the LN chain doesn't work or LN doesn't work. I'm meaning Lightning Network. But yeah, like the amount of transactions that we're seeing, like within 2 days of a conference, or like just look at the Lightning Network, it is exploded, and there's just so much activity on there. I still can't believe that there's like sort of naysayers for Lightning still, like now. Like I can kind of see, for side chains, and there's a lot of other projects sort of being built kind of on top of BTC or around BTC that you might kind of look at and go, oh, okay, well, I'll wait and see how that project matures. But Lightning's like proven, right? Like there's a whole this
Well,
country
it's
running.
gone through that maturing stage, right? Like,
Yeah,
it's taken years to get to the point it's at today, and it still has a long way to go before it's accepted even further. But I think it's starting to actually make inroads into that,
yeah,
through things like this, where there are obvious use cases where thousands of people have transacted on the network. Yeah, I think it's awesome. I'm really
it's like,
looking forward to getting back to Central America,
oh yeah,
basically to use the Lightning Network again, because I think I said it last week in our podcast. I don't really use it when I'm at home here in Australia.
Yeah.
I just don't have anyone to use it with. Like most of the service providers that I use, if I was to use Bitcoin, don't accept Lightning. Some do, like Bitrefill. Shout out to those guys because they were early adopters of Lightning. But we are seeing more and more of it, and we're obviously seeing it. We rave on about this nearly every week as well. The Lightning capacity continues to break all-time highs constantly. People wouldn't be opening channels and funding them if they didn't want to, and there wasn't a purpose to do it. So
Precisely.
hash rate goes up, liquidity in the Lightning network continues to go up. So they're all good signs, and we're supposed to be in the middle of a bear market too. So
yeah, exactly right. It's such cool metrics to witness. It's funny actually. I was with went for breakfast with mum this morning, and I was just running her through like Lotus Toshi again, and she was like, "Oh, cool!" Like she had some still in there, like had some sats from whenever, and they've obviously gone up from whenever we did it. She's like, "All right, so how do I use this like here in this restaurant again?" I'm like, "No, we're in Australia." If we're in El Salvador, you can definitely do that. She's like, "Well, why don't we just ask this guy if they'll accept like BTC Lightning transaction?" The guy didn't know what the hell we were talking about, but I was like, "Props to mum. It was really cool."
Well, if we keep having outages like we had the other day, I think there was a massive bank outage sometime late last week, where like terminals, internet banking, all sorts of shit went down. Direct deposits, like it was catastrophic. I think I don't know how long the outage was for, whether it was just like a few hours or something, but it was like if we had Lightning, like, or even just Bitcoin main chain, like we could have kept going and commerce didn't have to stop. So, and that's not that uncommon here in Australia to have outages, but like both planned and unplanned. There's always times where your bank's like, we're going to be down between these hours, and they're often between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m. or some hour where less people are likely to be affected. The planned ones are okay, I guess. Like it's still unacceptable in my opinion to have planned outages for the financial system, considering what we know Bitcoin can do.
Yeah.
But we'll overlook that for now. But it's the unplanned stuff that really hurts people. Networks go down, businesses can't trade. It happened to me when I was in Melbourne a few months ago. I was trying to buy a birthday card from this store, and their FPOS terminal was down, and they're having problems all day. And I literally stood there for 15 minutes, which is a long time to stand there to allow the lady
100%.
to let her try troubleshoot it. And after 15 minutes, like, there was nothing we could do. She exhausted every option. She was like, "Have you got cash?"
Yeah.
And I said, "Well, no, I don't." So
did you ask her
if she would accept Bitcoin?
Yeah.
After 15 minutes of her like losing her mind, I didn't think it was the right time to go. Yeah, like, have you heard of Bitcoin? Like, it's gonna change everything. Like, I don't think she was in the mood for it, but it was an obvious case for that to go like, "Hey, we work and we don't stop working."
Absolutely. Yeah, it's the way forward. Well, and like going back to last week when we were talking about Lightning with what was the name of the program? Whatever it is, whatever that open project is, doing like stable coins on Lightning, that would be a real use case for that, right? It's like, all right, because I mean, doing a transaction and it goes down by whatever percentage, like 5 minutes after you send it to them, like to be like, oh, what? Why am I doing this? But if it was pegged, like to whatever currency it is, I reckon that's kind of the way forward. So exciting to see how that sort of plays out as well. But yeah, all happening. So you're off to run us through your full trip because it sounds pretty freaking awesome.
Yeah, so heading to Los Angeles for Pacific Bitcoin conference in Santa Monica. That's at the start of November, and then heading over back to El Salvador, which is looking like to be like a yearly event now, which is nice.
Mecca.
Had a lot of fun there last year, so I'm very excited to go back again for adopting BTC, which is a Lightning focused Bitcoin conference. And then after that, heading to a place called Bitcoin Lake or Lake Atilian, I think it is, in Guatemala. Often sort of, I think it's the most beautiful lake in Guatemala, if not one of the most beautiful lakes in the world, people say. So there's a bit of a Bitcoin movement happening there with merchants and vendors and all that sort of stuff. So going to check that out for a few days at least. And then also going to head over to Costa Rica. So a bit of a Central American sort of trip, which is always fun.
Costa Rica Bitcoin related?
Sort of, yeah. So going there with Bitrefill.
Cool. Awesome.
Yeah, and I think there's like a Bitcoin jungle or something in Costa Rica. So
oh wow,
we were talking about this last week with Andy, like these little hot pockets of areas around the world, often in sort of third world countries. I don't like those terms because
no, neither.
I think Australia's a third world country, but we don't identify as one.
Agreed.
So.
Yeah.
But yeah, in those sort of Latin American and whatnot, those sort of areas, these little pockets of just cool Bitcoin shits happening. So I'm really excited to check them out.
Hell yeah. Very cool, man. Well, yeah, I think if we can get some guests from those countries as well, that'll be really exciting. I think I love speaking to people that are sort of living in these areas that are getting built out and kind of getting in on the ground floor and hearing like their journeys as well. I think is really exciting. So
100%. I'm thinking I might have to take over some audio gear of some sort.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, like I like to pack light, but now I'm starting to think like it would be really cool to have a chat with some of these people and record some stuff. So
even just like a handheld recorder or something that's kind of light that you can bring with you. You're bringing laptop and everything with you, obviously.
Yeah, I just bought a new laptop, so I got pretty good gear now for when I'm mobile and not at home. So
what'd you get? MacBook?
Yeah, went the devil. I've always liked their sort of laptop hardware. I couldn't really find anything to convince me not to get like the new MacBook Airs look pretty sweet. So I was like, all right,
strong build for sure.
Yeah, they went away from that tapered edge, which I was not a fan of. And they went to like a more conventional sizing of the thickness of the laptop, even though it's still thinner than the old one. And it's also light as well. So it's my traveling hardware. So like I don't want it to be bulky, heavy. I don't do anything like crazy intensive. Like even if I was recording podcasts and stuff, I think it would be fine. But yeah, we should definitely do like I'm going to be overseas for 5 or so weeks. So we're going to have to do some remote. Well, I guess this is remote. We're not together now.
But night, man. That's all cool.
Well, maybe we'll have to take shifts. Like you do 1 week, I do another week.
Absolutely. No, it's going to be awesome. Oh, thanks heaps, Chris. We'll leave it till next week. Hopefully we can get Andy back on again with us because some cool discussions last week. Any stuff you come across during the week, send it through and I'll post it. And reach out to either of us on Twitter. I think is the best place for both of us. So
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll put.
And stay tuned. We're doing some cool stuff here. We're sort of going to be taking the podcast a little bit more seriously, I guess you could say.
Yes.
So hopefully you'll be seeing us a bit more frequently, and also with some guests. Hopefully some pretty interesting guests, ideally. But yeah, stay tuned for some updates there.
Beautiful. All right, I'll see you next week.
Take care. Bye, everyone.
Bye.